Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome. And a happy new year from Flat Earth UK Live. Joining me tonight is Audio Paula.
Hi.
And Martin Liedtke, otherwise known as Flat Earth British. Martin, welcome to Flat Earth UK.
Hey guys, hey Paula, hey Nathan. Oh, it's really nice of you to invite me again. I know, how nice. And hey everyone else as well.
It's a pleasure to have you here, mate. On tonight's show, on our third attempt, we will discuss NASA fakery and Operation Paperclip, cartography. We might touch on some Buddhism, ships on the flat Earth horizon, maybe a bit of radar. But in the first instance, and for the third attempt, Martin, can you tell us how you found out the Earth is flat?
Well, I don't know if my tale is similar to other people's, but well, I'm afraid it was Max Sargent's Flat Earth clues that got me thinking about it. And I suppose trying to disprove Flat Earth became impossible. And the more I tried to disprove Flat Earth, the more I actually found out that it was flat. So about a month into it, there was no going back. I had an epiphany. I suppose a religious epiphany, you could call it, a spiritual awakening. And everything has changed since then. I've got a whole new way of outlook, a whole new way of life. My attitude towards people has changed. My attitude towards life has changed. Everything, full stop, has changed with my new flat Earth lifestyle. I absolutely love it.
I mean, you've got into quite a lot of cartography since you've been on. Has that helped with your flat Earth research?
It has, because I think I have like a bit of a fascination with maps. I always have since I was a small child. It's in the blood. It's my father, I suppose, being a ship's captain. But you know, I'm the type of person who can sit and study a map for hours on end. And they've never rung true. There's no two maps that look the same. And this has been a question that has been in my mind for, since childhood. And now we're flat Earth, all the answers are coming. And now we know why all the maps, no two are the same. They start out with flat Earth.
You're on a ship. How long ago was this? How old were you?
Well, I'll give you an example. When I was, say, 8-year-old, the teacher used to get me up in front of the classroom, and we didn't have a globe in our classroom. We had a map, and he used to make, he used to say, get a stick, and I'll say a destination, and you point at it, Martin. So he'd say a destination, I'd point it out instantly because I had this geographical knowledge. It used to freak everyone out at a really early age. So I've been really into maps from a very early age. 5, 6-year-old, maybe. I don't know. Well,
were you actually using this sort of love of maps while you were out at sea?
Oh yes, yeah. It was a big player. I want to know where I was, and constantly trying to find out, how far out we are, how much distance, how much ground. There was an argument that came up in a debate about, I think it might have been Mark Sargent, concerning arriving late in port. Now, I've arrived in port as late as a week. Now, my mother will tell you the same. My father's ships would be in as late as a week, no matter what weather.
A week late?
I have been due in port, and we've been expected in port. Everyone there waiting to unload cargo, and we've been as late as a week. That's my latest I've been. You can be as late as 2 days, 3 days. It's just not an accurate science. Nothing is accurate at sea. You arrive when you arrive.
About that arriving late in port was talking about painting targets with lasers, sort of 60 miles in the distance, so that they could guide in radar. I mean, did you have any similar experiences while you were out at sea?
No. I used the radar constantly because I had a bit of a fascination with the radar, I'm afraid. I'd spend hours just staring into it. It's just a wonderful thing. But obviously, I couldn't touch the radar equipment because it's radioactive. It's got radioactive isotopes in it, apparently. I watched them bring them on board, so they must exist. The radar works.
So what did you see in the radar, though?
Well, I'll tell you now, you're right. You can see pretty much the exact way it'd look on a map. The outline of a coastline, how it'd look on a map, is how it'd look on a radar. And then sometimes you can see like big white masses come in, and sometimes it can be a flock of birds. All sorts show up on radar. You'd be very surprised. I suppose you'd have to go into the science of how it works. It sort of skims across. It's not sonar, it's radar. So it skims across the top of the water until it reaches, and it gives you an accurate projection as it bounces back. So it gives you like exactly what it looks like on the map. But you could be 60, 70 miles out, and it's not water penetrating radar, is it? It doesn't go through the ocean and show you the.
So when we spoke obviously a couple of days ago, Martin, you were saying about going up the. I don't know if you phrased it the pole, but you were sort of talking about some of the observations you make and linking them back to the radar. Can you talk us through that a bit?
Yeah, well, the mast is always the highest point on the ship. I don't know how high it is, but it is really, really high. And when you're up there, you just see the ship just below you. It looks really, really small. And it gives you a really unusual perspective on the world, because all you see is flat horizon as far as the eye can see, and the sky. And you get a really good set of binoculars, and you can see nothing on the horizon. And, oh, right, there's a large cargo ship. And take the binoculars away, she disappears. Binoculars there, she's in. So these distances I'm talking about, they're in the. They say 25 or 23 to 25 miles to the horizon is what they tell you at sea before it's the disappearing point, which is an absolute load of rubbish, because we constantly see things over 50. All of us, all of the time. It's just a way of living in denial amongst us all in the sea world. It must be. We always see things that we shouldn't see if there is a curvature of the Earth. And we all just run with it. It's the type of hypnosis.
Talk us through what you actually saw, though. You said you went up the mast. I mean, is it like a spiral staircase, or do you have to shimmy your way up it, or what's happening? How does it actually?
You have to use a harness. You go up a really precarious steel staircase, and it goes on to one level where there's some radar and some communications equipment. And then you go to a next level, which is a little bit more scarier. And then you get up to the top level. And that's where the action is, because the whole thing is rocking back and forth. And you've got the ship, which is tiny down there because you're so high up. I can't say what it is in meters. It must be at least 120 meters up easily. You've got to have people don't go up there. But I used to go up there for a buzz, because did you
take a good set of binoculars with you, or is there a set tied on up there? Yeah. Or
the captain had a good collection of, and I used to take his biggest pair, and they were something like 10 inches long, and they were really, really big binoculars, and the view on them was spectacular. I just wish I'd have had night vision goggles back in them days, but they didn't.
So what did you see then? So you've got your way up all the way to the top of this scary rocking pole, and you've got your big binoculars. What did you see?
Well, at night it's a different story. It's very scary at night. But in the daytime, you just try and spot things on the horizon. I always imagine going back in time to people in the crow's nest saying "land ahoy." So when you're a young man and you're at sea, you sort of think in these ways. I'm thinking, where's the land ahoy? I was always trying to look out for whales as well, to see if I could see a whale spurt, because I was always looking for marine life, dolphins and whales, because all them years at sea, and I never seen a blue whale. Plenty of dolphins, plenty of porpoises and squids, but never a blue whale, which I regret. But so I was always looking on the horizon for water spouts or any small fishing craft, anything that would be.
What distances were you seeing things? I mean, when we spoke a couple of days ago, you were talking about sort of spotting ships at 60 and 70 miles out.
I'll give you an example. When you sail out from the island of Tenerife, okay, which is basically a volcano, okay, Mount Tidy. I sailed out from, I think it was the capital, Santa Cruz. It's on the northern coast. We were sailing north, coming back towards Europe, And as you sail away, it's just a volcano basically sticking up out of the ocean. The whole Canaries are. But you can see Mount Tidy. I'd say halfway across the Bay of Biscay, that thing's visible. Would you agree? Yeah, my mother agrees. So I'm talking 80 mile away. I can see Mount Tidy. On clear weather, you can see the Canary Islands. And I bet you a lot of people who are hearing this right now will say, yeah, that's true. You can see Mount Tidy from a hell of a long way away. I'd say 60 miles away, 70 maybe even. I could see Mount Tidy clearly. Now,
did you discuss this with the other staff that are on the ship? I mean, did you bring this up with the captain or anybody?
Because as I said, I'm not sure if it's a form of hypnosis. It's like a form of denial. I kept bringing it up over and over. Why are we seeing these things with the? Because I have like a keen scientific mind, and I realised when I was at sea, even at that age, that the world's apparent circumference at the equator was 24,500 miles. So I realised that the Earth at that time, when I was a globe head, had a curvature. So this was a question I had asked. Where is the curvature? Nobody would give me an answer, no verbal answer, just funny stares, absolute denial, and like if everyone is just in a hypnosis. Yes, we all know we can see things that are over the horizon that doesn't exist because it's flat as a pancake, but we'll all just ride with it anyway. So that's the game.
So you'd be down potentially in the radar room. You've seen Land Ahoy, and you've roughly got an idea of how far it is out.
No, it is you.
They will have to see this, and you just get denial. I mean, what would they actually say to you?
Well, I tried to break them down. A few of them, they were quite. The people at sea are quite a cliquey lot. I got to be honest. And a few of the ships I were on, you're frightened what to bring up. To be honest with you, it's a dangerous old world at sea. But yeah, they are constantly avoidance, is what I'd say. Funny stares and please shut the F up, Martin. Stop going on about the curvature. You're getting on our nerves with it. So that's what the buzz I got. I got the buzz that they really didn't want me bringing it up, and that they knew. And
how old were you? How old were you when you were asking these questions?
I joined. I was at sea from a baby from 0 years of age. I've got a photograph of me as a sort of a 3-month-old baby on my father's ship, and then my entire childhood. And then I joined the Navy myself on my 18th birthday, believe it or not, which is quite interesting. No, I sailed from King's Lynn, my first port out. King's Lynn to Rotterdam was my first trip out, which is quite an interesting
so like
trip.
a lot of people, you've obviously had flat Earth realizations from when you were a very early age, and from then you've sort of gone on to broadcasting some of the research you're doing. And the thing that caught my attention, Martin, was the biplane flight over the Everest. Can you talk us through sort of how you came across that information? And
well, there's more to it than that, actually, that I just discovered today when I'm reading into Freemasonry. Now, it turns out that Mount Everest, is named after this Freemason fella, Charles Everest. Now,
or Everest.
Yeah, Mount Everest is named after this 33-degree Mason, Mr. Everest. I was just reading about him this morning, funnily enough, with a picture and an account of his amazing life. So, Mr. Everest. There's a picture of basically a de Havilland moth, which is a biplane made out of canvas, balsa wood and plywood, and it's flying over the peak of hang on, there must have been 2 planes, otherwise who was taking the photograph? I never thought about that. How were they taking the photograph at 29,000 foot of him? That's just the penny just dropped. There must have been 2 planes anyway. One of them following this guy's flight over at 30 must have been 30,000 foot, which just leads you to think why they say you can't fly over the supposed Antarctic continent.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about things like the temperatures at these heights.
Not as high as some of them. Can you still hear me okay, guys? Am I still here?
Yeah, you're sounding great, Martin.
Oh, good, brilliant. Hi, everybody. It's New Year's Eve.
It certainly is. I mean, one of the things that caught my attention was you were saying about it being sort of minus 47 degrees at that altitude, and it shouldn't really make a blind bit of difference whether or not you're over Everest or Antarctica. I mean, is that something you'd agree with, or where did you find that information out?
Well, there's a funny thing that comes with that as well, because I discovered this site, Quora. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. Quera, Quora, and I look into it, and it gives you worldwide flight temperatures at certain flight heights. So at 30,000 foot, it said that it was 47, over 47 below outside the window. As you get higher, actually, as it got to 100,000 foot, it actually said the temperature went up. It actually went to minus 52. It was just crazy. And the higher you went, I don't know whether it meant you were getting closer to the closest sun or what, but it was crazy. But this site, as I looked into it, is a site that's actually trying to debunk flat Earth, believe it or not. So I'm looking at these temperatures, and I'm not sure whether to believe it or not from a site that is emphasising on debunking flat Earth. But I looked into an alternative.
An equal dose of truth and lies mixed in on both sides of it. I mean, has anybody actually tried to debunk your video or provided information to the contrary when you've talked about these flights and the heights and the temperatures?
No, I've only twice asked a question on Patricia's Hot Potatoes to Max Sargent concerning why there are no commercial flights over polar regions. He brought it up last week and said, yeah, they do fly over northern polar regions. Now, they don't fly inside the Arctic Circle. I've looked into this. They just won't fly over the North Polar regions. Now, I've read today, I don't know whether any of you have looked at my posts today, but I've read today some evidence that they believe that there's the supposed continent in the North Polar region. I don't know if any of you have looked at it. The evidence is undeniable. If I could read it to you, it's absolutely fascinating. It blew my mind to read it. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Oh yeah, the history of geography. Oh God Almighty, photography. Now there's the thing to go into. If you are interested. No, I can't find it. Anyway, the writing's too small, I'm afraid, and I've got glasses of bloody rubbish.
I mean, how has cartography in general helped you with your flat Earth research, Martin?
Well, I'll give you an example. Nothing ever rings true, okay? I've got a picture here, actually. I found a globe. I was going to smash it up on air, but I can't get a picture, so I won't be doing that now. Why do they always want to emphasise northern regions in the northern, I was going to say northern hemisphere, but northern hemisphere, they're so big, and Africa is so small. Now, a lot of these maps are politically motivated. Now, you'll get a lot of maps where you see Greenland as this absolutely massive landmass, and you get it, and you look at it compared to Africa, and some maps show it the same size as Africa, and some maps will show you it the same size as South America. But in the reality, it's only Greenland is only 1/14 the size of Africa. So none of the maps ring true. I can't get two maps from any era. The size of Spellbad, for example, which is Spitsbergen in the past. All sizes in all books, in all atlases vary. I can't get two the same. They say that this is part of this supposed North Polar continent, by the way. The San Joseph Islands, the American archipelago, so that's that archipelago that follows, I suppose, Alaska across the Bering Sea. They think that that's part of this supposed North continent. But if nothing goes that far north, no commercial jets, if you can't look out of the windows to have a look, how do we know what's there? Well, there's also evidence in this book that the North Polar region, the ocean, it's an ocean. Now, if you look on the maps, the Arctic Ocean is vast. I mean, a lot bigger than you actually think it is. On the map, it shows it's not that big, but believe you me, it is vast. a lot more vast than it's actually showing us. Now, I've got a map. I wish I could show you this map, but in the Kara Sea, there's all of these peninsulas off of the north of Siberia. They are all part of this supposed continent. So if you never get north of, say, Spitsbergen, or Bear Island about it, we can't go and take a look for ourselves, and we're not really welcome. I don't know whether you've ever seen any footage of the North Polar Station, have you? Have you ever seen any?
I've seen some, but you don't know if it's authenticity.
What sticks in my mind is there was a program on years ago by Michael Palin, one of the Monty Python people.
Yeah, Pole to Pole.
Yeah. Now, I watched that right the way through. There's some on YouTube. The clip is of what I'm talking about. It's on YouTube. He visits this supposed North Pole Station. Now, he is really not welcome. But bear in mind, this guy's a member of the BBC and a member of the establishment. They can't wait to get him out of there. Hundreds of these scientists are supposedly taking ice cores. I just don't buy that. I don't buy that these ice cores and carbon emissions from X amount of millions of years ago is that all important to humanity. I really don't think that's what they're doing out there. There's something else going on.
Martin, because we're starting to lose your sound a little bit, so I do want to ask a few more questions. Can you tell us how a trigonometry supports your sort of flat Earth research?
Yeah, well, they use to the most part, you will get people using spherical trigonometry at sea when you follow shipping charts. But for the most part, we use plane trigonometry. It's just better for bearings. It seems to be more accurate. If you follow a spherical projection with using a protractor, it tends to put you out of reckoning slightly. So we always go with the flat Earth, a flat projection. All maps are obviously a flat projection anyway. But with sea charts, they're constantly updated. I mean, every couple of months we have new ones come in. Who does this work? Is beyond me, the USGS, whoever. It was always a wonder to me how all of this information kept coming in at such a constant rate. All these fresh maps of all of these seaways. Who does this work? Very fascinating to me. But yeah, the seaways are a mystery upon themselves. And if you think you can just take a boat and go out and sail wherever you want, you can't. They're the seaways, they're the sea lanes, motorways at sea. And you have to stay in these seaways. Can you hear me? Ground control. Hello.
We can just about make out what you're saying. It's just not very clear at all.
We're dropping off the broadband. It's probably because it's New Year's Eve. Half the world's population is probably talking online right now, saying things to one another, I suspect. I've just found a 1912 azimuthal equidistant map. I wish I could show you it. Really
what might be worth a try? We'll chat amongst ourselves, because before we went out, I know when you disconnected from the chat and then reconnected, it seemed to be perfect. So if you like, if you want to disconnect from the call and then reconnect again, me and Paul will all chat amongst ourselves for a couple of minutes while you reconnect, and hopefully that'll improve the sound. Do you want to give that a go?
Yeah, just one observation. My ears are burning, and in my world, that means somebody's talking about me out there. My ears are burning. I'll reconnect now, guys.
Okay. If you cut off, we'll hopefully speak to you in a second. So.
Yeah, okay, guys. Stick with us.
So yeah, what an interesting year 2015 has been.
Yeah.
I mean, this is now show 11B, and we've had technical difficulties upon technical difficulties, which isn't much fun. But by the same token, what an amazing lineup of guests. I mean, Martin included. When I was chatting to him a couple of nights ago, we got into some really heavy topics. He's done sort of research in Operation Paperclip, and he's telling me about his Buddhist roots. He even got onto stuff like human levitation. I mean, some of the topics he was covering were amazing. And you can probably, as an audience, only make out half of what he's saying. But he's explaining how the maps he was receiving, none of them seem to tie up with each other. And he's been cross-referencing these. And he even explained that he'd been doing his own little, if you like, azimuthal equidistant projection, his own version of that. And he didn't realise that Tiger Dan had been doing exactly that. He's on part 4 now of a series of cartography videos where he's trying to develop his own version of the flat Earth map, and he's doing a really cracking job. Hopefully Martin will get in touch with Tiger Dan and offer some input of some description, because as I say, he didn't realise he was doing it, even though he's working along very similar lines and he's doing very, very similar research. But he really was. Were you in when I was chatting away with him?
No.
I mean, he's just such a fascinating character. I mean, even if this broadcast doesn't come off and we don't get to see Martin again, I'll definitely have him back on, because I've tried to eke out of him what he was saying about seeing things. He was saying he was seeing ships 50 miles and 60 miles into the distance. Again, he said it on the last broadcast, and whether or not you could hear him saying it. And then he'd go downstairs and discuss it with the people in the radar room. And you hear this stuff, and it's kind of reminiscent of Robin Poe talking about getting, over 100-mile radar shots where there should be huge amounts of Earth's curve in the way. Well, Martin was doing similar things and catching, ships on the flat Earth horizon at, massive distances that just shouldn't be possible. But yeah, along with, like I say, talking about things like Operation Paperclip, it really was a fascinating conversation. It's a shame that on episode 11 we're reaching the point where we're chatting amongst ourselves and we're not the interesting people. Martin's the interesting guy. He's so endearing, isn't he?
Yeah, bless him. He is trying.
He spent all day trying to get his internet working, and really, like with any of these shows, we just want to talk about flat Earth, or you want to ignore it.
I like my globe.
You like your globe, don't you, Paula?
Yeah, I do.
Well, I mean, we didn't get this out on the last one. Oh, we got Martin back. Do you want to give it a testing? He's not quite got his audio yet. Yeah, I mean, I didn't quite get to the nub of why you like the globe. Is it just easier?
I guess so.
His mic's muted according to this. It might be. Do I need to unmute him?
I'm here. I am. No.
Oh, we've got you back, Martin.
Thank you. It sounded a lot better.
That's much better, mate.
You saved me from my blood questions.
Oh, right. I just found some
a bit of detail on Operation Paperclip. I know we started it on the last one.
Yeah, if you like. Yeah, there's a lot in that Operation Paperclip, isn't there? All right. Are we live now? Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
We're doing that, mate. Everything's hunky-dory and we can hear you.
Well, I don't know how many of you are aware of the situation after World War II, but the Americans had the cream of the crop when it comes to German scientists. They had a bit of a share-out between them and the Russians, but the Americans had the cream of the crop. And they took them all to Los Alamos to supposedly work on the said Manhattan Project, supposedly. But this is one of many things that they were working upon. The people. Right, who are we talking about? Well, we're talking about Werner von Braun. Now, what do we know about Werner von Braun? Well, we know he's a member of the Nazi Party. We know that he used endless amounts of slaves in the Peenemond Islands, where he engineered underground bunkers to house the V2 and V1 rocket programs, which were the precursor for the Saturn project, Saturn V, as you know. So Werner von Braun, amazingly interesting fella, but yeah, they snap him up, and instantly he is no longer a Nazi. He's an accepted member of the American establishment, and he works for the new organization of NASA, which is just one letter away from Nazi. No other members of the early days of NASA, of Operation Paperclip. You have people like Robert Oppenheimer, a genius of a fella, also a studier of the Vedas, which I am myself, which I don't know, after you watch the Trinity test, when the first atomic test, and you hear Robert Oppenheimer stating, I revert back to that bit in the Bhagavad Gita where they say, we have now become the destroyer of worlds, with this real grim look on his face. Well, Robert Oppenheimer is a really sinister dude. He was involved in the cult, OTT, a member of. Also Oberon. I don't know whether many of you are aware of Oberon, also a member of the paperclip lot. This Oberon, also a member of the nuclear program, Edward Teller. He was brought in later, obviously, but still a member of Operation Paperclip. So they're involved in the occult, all of this sinister black magic that they've brought into the rocket program. So these are the people that have invented NASA. So obviously, after Kennedy saying that we're going to go to the moon, 1962, he said that speech. It didn't last long after that. Lyndon Johnson, I think, possibly saw to that. But that's another subject for another day. But it occurred. Oh, thank you. A cup of coffee. How nice. It occurs to me that from the Wright brothers inventing the plane in 1905 to 1969, apparently landing on the moon's surface, a period of 66 years, from a biplane piece of wood to a super plane, a super rocket that flies 250,000 miles to the surface of some spherical thing in the sky that looks really sinister to me.
Yeah,
So why for me to make it?
I mean, I had Neil's guitars guy today saying about him looking through a telescope and about them all being planets, and it's they're just lights in the sky.
I have better than that. I wish I could show you. I found a book today, and it was a book from when I was a teenager, and it was published in 1977. And it shows you the best possible planetary pictures that they had of the day. And believe you me, they're just fuzzy blobs of light. And Saturn looks nothing more than a fuzzy blob of light with a little white speck of ring around it. No matter how good your optics are, if you're just focusing on any spot of light in the sky, they're just spots of light in the sky. You'd need some, I don't know, you need what they've got. Their observatories. Who've got the best observatories on Earth? Oh, Vatican got a few, haven't they? Oh, they've got one called Lucifer, funnily enough. But yeah, why are they so interested in things that are happening above us? They know. They must know. No, why? Why are they? Why the fascination? Or why the fascination?
Jeranism. It's because they've got their hands in both pies. Then you've got them whether or not you're going down a religious route, or you've got them whether or not they're going down a mathematical or scientific route.
I don't want to go down any religious route because every time I touch upon any religion, people wrongly interpret me. And the thing is with religion is I don't really do religion. I'm sure you have noticed that with me. I'm highly spiritual, and I am self-realized. But I'm not a religious person. I don't practice any religious dogmas. I've invented my own. And the main part of it is flat earthness at the moment, I'm afraid.
Your religion is now flat earth, is it, Martin?
Yeah, my religion is flat earth / Buddhism with a little spicing of Christianity, because I still carry a rosary bead with Jesus in my pocket. It's part of my origins. And I have been christened, and I am C of E. So... I've had the old sacred water plonked on my head, so I'm part of their, christening.
I mean, have any studies into religion or your Buddhist beliefs? Have any of them assisted you in your flat Earth research?
Well, actually, yes, because most ancient religions actually believe in a flat Earth. I'm just reading this morning about Norse religion and the Norse beliefs and Asgard and the rest. And, we've all been watching these films recently, Thor and that, haven't we? So we're pretty up on Asgard. But, going back onto their idea of it all, they're flat earthers. Now, I'm reading into this book here, and it gives you a background into the origins of early map making. Now, they leave out this guy, Al-Burundi. Have you ever heard of this guy? He's an Arab map maker, an Islamic, yeah? Well, NASA is certainly aware of him. They've named a bloody crater after him. So they leave him out of all sort of British texts. Well, his flat Earth projections are absolutely stunning. I have got one of them. But there are some questions that are...
well, you touched on it earlier, but we could only hear half of what you were saying, some of the connections you were drawing with the early flat Earth maps. Can you repeat some of what you said?
Okay. Well... Ptolemaic maps, they're like Ptolemy was a guy who was around in Roman times. Now the Romans weren't great geographers, and Ptolemy's work apparently went missing until the 1500s. So it says here, and the re-emergence of them in the Renaissance, when all of this giant lie that we're not actually on a flat Earth, all originated. So I've pieced it all together. There has been a really dirty trick going on. We'll get into it. But Perry Rees, are you aware of this map maker? Have you seen any of his images? Well, his work is from approximately 1560, okay? Now, he says that his projections, his maps, are from an earlier time. He says that his maps go back as early as possibly the Library of Alexandria. So yeah, really. So we're talking what? I don't know what BC. 1,400 BC, possibly. Well, if you're going on their calendar, which I actually don't do anymore. I actually don't believe their timeline. I think the timeline is false. So if you're going on that, don't know. What was I on about, Nathan? I've just gone brain blanked.
Sorry. We're talking about old maps and their...
Pierre Rees. Now bear with me. A lot of his projections, right, will show you an ice-free Antarctica. Now, there is a theory out there, right, which Graham Hancock works on, that after the Ice Age, that he reckons ended in about, 12,500 years ago. Now, he reckons that Antarctica, or the supposed Antarctica continent, was all free of ice. Now, I have evidence that there's large swathes of Antarctica. I have a picture in front of me, and it shows an expanse of Antarctica completely free of ice. There's also video footage on YouTube available on that. The Operation High Jump footage, which also shows you huge swathes of Antarctica. But Operation High Jump in itself, what is that name? High jump over what? What do you name that Operation High Jump for? I've been looking into a bit of Admiral Byrd lately as well, and trying to work out a lot of things what he said on that interview. The interview that's on Mark Sargent's The Clues. Have you ever seen it?
The crazy named show that I can never pronounce.
Yeah, the Chronoscope, whatever. Anyway, that guy, I've read quite a bit about him. Obviously, he's an admiral. He's a Freemason, whatever. Yeah, but a lot of what he says in there, I've been thinking about. Now, he said he was alarmed at the shrinking rate of the planet. Now, what the ever does that mean? Obviously, he knew the Earth was flat. I believe he knew the Earth was flat. I believe he was in search of the edge. But I know he was in search of the edge. All of that operation, all of them millions, just after, what was it, 1946, just after World War II, they say, supposedly, to go and hunt for, supposedly, Adolf Hitler, U-boats, and all escaped Nazis. But, I know what happened to all of them. They filtered through another way, with another operation I don't want to touch upon because it's a bit sinister. I do. I watch what I say, Nathan. I don't know why. Paula, my mother said you were really nice looking. My mother just said. Sorry, she's a woman who talks from the heart, and she is very honest. And coming from her, that is something usually slagging everybody off.
No, you were.
Well, just to keep the subject flat Earth. Did you look into the other operations? So we've got Operation Fishbowl as well as Operation.
Yeah. Why? Operation Fishbowl. That stinks in itself, doesn't it? So I don't know whether they just like to wind us up with these sneaky operation names and just like dangle it in front of our face.
Isn't it?
Yeah, they constantly do it, but more so now since Flat Earth has arrived on the table, and as it's heating up, and it is heating up, the momentum is getting crazy. And I don't know whether you watched Patricia's Hot Potatoes last night, Nathan, at all, did you?
I didn't, I'll be honest. I do normally.
Right. It was really, really good. She interviewed a 16-year-old girl, okay, from Croatia.
Croatian, yeah.
It was phenomenal. She was so wise. And she was on the card with everything that we know, or our understanding of it all. she already had that understanding at 16 years of age. Can you imagine where she'll be by the time she's, say, 20? It's incredible to think. I was a bit jealous. I thought, I wish I knew about the flat earth at 60.
I want to tell my sister's 4-year-old, but I don't think she'll let me.
I think you should surreptitiously just drop sneaky hints in, not just blast.
That's right. Thing is, you've got to keep kids educated into the system, regardless of how much we know about flat Earth. Because if I was to tell her and she didn't understand how the globe works, she'd just fail all of her classes.
Yeah, but there's been a lot of people are teaching their kids home now, aren't there? You can do this curriculum that they give you to go by, and you can add your own little subjects to go along with it. A lot of people are teaching their kids home. I don't know if that's a good thing, because you miss out on that, that high school thing. Which,
until the system collapses, we are still very much a part of the psychopathic control grid. So we've got to play the game. It's their rules, and we have to abide by them if we want our kids to survive and be a part of society.
Well, this is something I want to mention. We're a flat Earth movement. So where are we moving towards? Now we're gaining momentum. Now this flat Earth is really, really shaking their tail feathers. It definitely is getting up their nose. They keep responding constantly. I don't know if anyone believes that Tim Peake is a genuine exercise in a reality, because believe you me, Britain have never really made a big hype about space like they did for this fella, and the amazing documentary film that went along with it, which wasn't all that good, by the way. I think you mentioned Red Dwarf once.
My favourite show.
I love Red Dwarf. I can't tell you how much I love Red Dwarf.
Oh, this is a turn up. All right, it's gonna be a 3-hour show.
I'm telling you, I'm not going to mention Dwayne Dibley, but I haven't got
Dwayne Dibley's interesting. So, I will mention Dwayne Dibley because Dwayne Dibley is an incarnation of the cat character on Red Dwarf, and Dwayne Dibley is what he looks like when they unplug all of the characters from a virtual reality machine. So the episode is based on the premise that they're all plugged into a computer, and that's how they're experiencing the world of Red Dwarf. And when they finally get unplugged, the cat realizes that he's actually a goofy geek and not a really cool character and not a cat at all. But that, to me, is just part of the next level of programming to convince us all that we live in a virtual simulation.
Do you know, I've never actually in-depthly looked at Red Dwarf in that way, but now you've mentioned it, yeah, it is, isn't it? I remember that episode when he came into the realization of what he actually looked like and what he was. But they do add a lot. They are globalists, and they do add a lot of evolution into it, because cat was an advanced evolution. A cat left to advanced into a human cat being, wasn't he?
Well, yeah. The cat actually followed human evolution, so it's just a way of getting another part of the programming into Red Dwarf. So you've got Cat going through basically the Christian story. And basically, Lister is to the cat people Cloister the Stupid, who came from Fushal and was going to lead them to the Holy Land.
Cloister. Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
Cloister the Stupid. But it's wall-to-wall programming. Everything in literally every second word said in Red Dwarf is wall-to-wall programming. Dwayne Dibley again came about from a hallucination. So they weren't actually part of the Matrix. It was from a hallucination from ink, from something called the Despair Squid. And they had a mass hallucination.
Yeah, well, I always remember an episode where they all linked up to this one virtual reality machine when they went to the Wild West. Do you ever recall that episode?
Oh, that was another one with virtual reality programming. So they're essentially, it was called, I can't remember the actual name of that particular episode. It will come to me. But yeah, they go and meet the 4 gunmen of the apocalypse.
Yes, that is exactly the one. It is an epic episode. Anyway, we're on Red Dwarf on a flat. But
it's fine. Everything in Red Dwarf, from the moment you start the show, is set in space. So it convinces you non-stop of the globe lie. Even though you know it's science fiction, the whole idea of space isn't fiction in 99% of our minds. So it's predictive programming, but only when you know the globe's a lie.
Did you grow up in the era of Space 1999 and programs like this and Battlestar Galactica?
Were they around? Was a bit before my time, but I certainly saw enough repeats.
Yeah. I actually, the thing is, all of these programs were things I used to watch, and since I'm a flat earther and I've given up on all science fiction or contemporary telly. I don't miss it, but in a way I do.
I see it as a useful way of seeing the lies. I mean, once you've figured out that the globe part of these science fiction programs is a massive lie, you can see the other layers of programming a little bit easier. Well, I can. Some people soak them up and gobble them up and accept them that we're going to be in a computer or a parallel universe or whatever the next nonsense will be.
Oh, I don't know. It's going in all different ways. But there is something I notice about the Flat Earth movement. It's something really exciting and really good. Happens every single day. There's never a dull moment.
Oh, no. I love it.
Always exciting.
Oh, that reminds me. I mean, we spoke about this a little bit last time, but have you seen Tiger Dan's videos on his cartography project?
Yes, I have. Somebody sent me a comment saying, don't take any notice of Tiger Dan. He's a Freemason. Don't know why they sent me that, and they're trying to put me off his projection, because if somebody realises that I realise his projection and I'm discussing his projection with him, Tiger Dan, and I think that he's definitely onto the right track, I've given a couple of comments, like that I think that he had a problem with the size of Mexico. I believe that problem might be that they're actually lying about the actual landmass of Mexico. I have what it is in square miles. It's close 800, close to 1 million square miles. But I believe that that's maybe his problem. But he is definitely onto something. But being as there's a lot of land missing and they're not telling us about, I don't think we're going to get an accurate projection just yet.
Well, no, but I mean, we can only do what people like Tiger Dan are doing, which is have a go and try and do a better job.
And he is awesome. And my hat's off to the man. And I tell you what, I'm so excited about it. I was waiting for the second installment. And as I can see it,
just talking about it's giving me goosebumps. Tiger Dan's project.
I like it as well. So look at that, right? So you can't see it. So how's that? I hope everyone else, because with me with Flat Earth, I believe that with people and understanding and the belief of Flat Earth, I believe it's about feeling. I believe that's it's just not with memory. When you remember something, you remember it. Okay, it's just a memory and it fades. But with a feeling, with a memory, that stays, that sticks for you. Say, I remember that, I feel that, I remember that. So it is about feeling with Flat Earth. I definitely think that's a player. I've been open to this world of emotion after I've been in a hopeless world, cold to it all. And now I'm not. It's unusual.
Now you've found out about Flat Earth. When we were first talking, we talked about it like it was a golden egg that you kind of felt was quite precious. I mean, do you still feel that exact same way now? Yeah,
not so much at first. I felt it was like the neon effect, that I felt that I not held this secret, but knew this knowledge that no one else knew. Obviously, other people realised that what the New World Order are doing. A girl just mentioned in the shop the other day about, is it true, Martin? Are they planning on depopulating us? She has no idea I have a Flat Earth site, but this is the sort of questions that people ask me in the street. People are on this way of thinking about what they are up to with their depopulation plans and whatever else they got in mind for us all. But with Flat Earth, I'm really trying to get it out there. I want to actually get people in the public to try and explain the sense of it. If you could just get the map explained. Once that dropped to me, the penny dropped with the azimuth lack of distance, I thought, oh, Jesus Christ, yes, there is no Antarctic. It is an ice ring. It's an ice circle, an ice rim. It makes perfect sense. That is exactly what is going on. From my studies of 40 plus years of the maps not making sense, suddenly they start to make more sense. Not total sense. There's still questions that I have, but it's making more sense. And more questions are being answered than ever before, I believe. Yeah, I've had a lot of questions.
In some of the old maps, that some of the continents are actually connected where they're not in modern maps.
No, I'm wondering about this with the Piri Reis maps. Now, not only do they give you like sort of medieval keep out of Antarctica signs, like little monsters down there, pictorials of little demons, sort of, if you look at this map, keep out, there's demons.
Really?
Demons down there, little medieval scaremongering tactic.
On the maps?
On the maps, yes. If you look at, there's a very famous map. You can look it up on Google, and it's called the Map of Monday. Now, this map is actually on display in Hereford Cathedral in England. Now, this map of Monday is a 14th century flat Earth map. I have many projections and pictures of this map. There are also other map of Mondays. Now, they're all flat Earth projections, but not only they're multi-layered flat Earth projections, but the thing, they are Christian-based. They have the centre, their North Pole. Without adding much equidistance, we have North Pole in the centre, and with theirs, they have Jerusalem as their centre, but they are still flat Earth projections. Map of Monday, Google it, and it's in Hereford Cathedral, a flat Earth map, and they will show you.
How do you spell it?
Sorry?
How do you spell it?
Mapper, M-A-P-P-A, Mapper, Monday, M-U-N-N-D-I, Mapper Monday, right? And it's Hereford Cathedral, England, and it's a very, very famous map. Well, to people in the map world, it's a really, really precious map, and it's always on display in the Hereford Cathedral. And it's an awesome flat Earth map, but it's not the only map of Monday. They're in different museums.
It's not far from us.
You're in Warwick, yes? So you got Warwick Cathedral, yeah?
No, but I mean, Hereford's not far from us.
You should go and see the map of Monday. It'll blow you right out of the water. They show you these little beasts on the Antarctic perimeter to say right the way around. Beasts. They're little demons with little forks, and they've got like little creatures that don't even exist in reality. But they're things that always puzzle me. Like, why do they put like gargoyles, like little nasty demon things, on cathedrals in the first place? When
you said it before, fear-mongering.
They're supposed to be places of love where you go and get married and christened and stuff. And they give me the. I'm a spiritual guy, and they give me the creeps. You know, I look at them gargoyles, and I'm like, especially if you have been outside Notre Dame Cathedral, the place is just like, oh my God, I can't even look at it. It's so sinister.
Funny you should mention gargoyles. I'm going to go off slightly off topic here, Martin. I really apologise. Yeah. But the school I went to when I first started secondary school was an old monastery, and it was called Moseley School in Birmingham. It was the highest point of that particular part of Birmingham. And this monastery had like gargoyles on the sides. And I don't know if any people who are watching may not know what a gargoyle is, but it's like a demon that sits on the side of a building and is connected to the guttering, so that when it rains, they will literally vomit out water. But Moseley School, as it now is, this former monastery, would have lightning hitting it in the rain and the gargoyles vomiting out water. And it was the most terrifying Gothic building you could possibly imagine when it was pouring the rain like it is now.
I know all of them are. Wells Cathedral, all of them, really. No, people, when I used to say this to people, I find them really creepy. They used to think that there must be something wrong with me. Am I slightly evil? But I'm the exact opposite, which is really funny. But anyone don't admit
I don't think anybody can think you were evil, Martin.
I don't know, but you know where I'm coming from. I find them creepy. Even going in them, I find them creepy. I'm more into your Buddhist thing. Like, people said to me, when you die, what do you want to have done? And I was like, well, I'd actually want a load of lamas reciting the Tibetan Book of the Dead would be very nice, if that would be possible. But my family won't take me realistically. But I am actually meaning this, and I would like for this to happen because I still read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, I'm afraid, and I still believe there might be some truths in it. So, it's a good interpretation of the life-death circle. It's a mystery to us all. Somebody told me today in a comment, don't have to look into anything any longer, Martin. All will become apparent when you die. Oh, well, that's bloody nice. I know. Yeah, well, obvious that's true. But I wanted to get to some answers about, like, who we are and where we are while we were here. I thought that was essential, and definitely where we are, because how could we have not known?
I mean, have you come to any conclusions? I mean, this is very broad, so that you can drop the words flat earth in a few times, hopefully. But what conclusions have you come on this new journey that you're undertaking?
Well, I tell you one thing I've learned more in the last, say, 6 months than I've probably learned in my entire life. Because I'm talking to these people in the flat earth community, and they've got all of these different views. I'm studying their views myself and considering them. I don't want to go into anybody's perspectives ignorantly and say, no, that's not true. I'm going to read about it. So I've had all sorts of questions coming towards me that I've looked into. any aspect I'll look into. I'm not going to be ignorant to anybody's views. But when it's flat Earth, it's a tricky subject, isn't it? And we get these problems with certain people, and I get a lot of trouble.
Well, you've drawn me nicely onto the next subject I was going to come on to, maybe before we wrap up, which was your reactions that you've had when you've told people about flat Earth and their globe proofs that they hold to.
Yeah, it's always the same one. But actually, I might be getting through to one or two. I'm considering my nephew Doctor, who subscribed to me. I'm considering that he may be coming across, because he's a very intelligent chap, and it occurs to me that anyone with a certain amount of intelligence will work out that the flat Earth is 100% definitely true. And how could it be possible for us to be living on a globe? If I find it an impossibility to be spinning at that speed, breakneck speed in infinite space, for me to envision it now is a sort of impossibility.
Well, we're spinning on our axis at 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
We're traveling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
We're traveling around a black hole that we have no proof of at just under 500,000 miles an hour. The whole thing's bonkers.
Yeah. And also expanding into they don't know what. Empty.
Oh, we're always expanding.
They don't even know. Yeah, but somebody told me off last night and said, "Listen, the Big Bang is true." We've always I can't even. Even when I first heard the words Big Bang, I knew it was a load of bullshit. The whole of all of the matter that they used to tell us when we were believers of the globe model could not possibly arrive from that tiny singularity.
So what was it that your nephew held as his globe proof then?
Or as a lot of people like the other people to believe. Sorry?
I was going to say, what was it that he held as his globe proof?
Who? Lawrence Krauss?
No, your nephew. I was trying to draw you onto the ISS, mate.
Yes. But I showed him footage about an hour after of Tim Peake, and the back of him were what looked like a square frame. And he's like, "Oh no, that's microphone equipment. That's recording equipment, like you see him in with studios with." I said, "No, stop, pause, take a closer look." And you could see a square frame in the back of his jersey. Now, and apart from his white woolly socks and his tracksuit and all the normal things you'd expect to turn up in space with, obviously, never mind your spacesuit. But he started to occur to him, well, actually, and then I showed him a picture of the blue marble. And I said to him, "Do you actually think that is real?" Now, bear in mind, Nathan, we actually believed that ourselves at one time. We looked at the blue marble and we thought that it was real. Isn't that mind-blowing?
When you said that you've been speaking to Math Powerland, have you not?
Sorry, have I spoke to him?
Well, you said you dropped him an email, or he dropped you an email.
Yeah. Well, he wanted to do an expedition into the Antarctic. He's planning some super vehicle, which is probably, in my visualization, similar to the super vehicle in that film, Doomsday film. I don't know whether you've ever seen that, when they've got this caterpillar-like vehicle. But his ideas and his plan is absolutely brilliant. And I've been reading into the Antarctic, Antarctic continent, to see whether this trip is actually possible and whether or not it's actually, is it safe for us? Would we die? There are problems like altitude, but that's only them telling us. So, yeah, I think it's doable. I think if he could get something together, he said that he's considered with my seat time that I could be on the staff. So he acknowledged that, I could be on the team in the future, which is absolutely brilliant. So I'm in the sort of math gang, which pleases me no end. But I just got a sneaky suspicion.
You don't value your fingers?
Sorry, you mean frostbite? Well, let me tell you something, right, Nathan? I spent years in the Northern Oceans, in the Northern Seas, and I worked out pretty damn quick that it was probably better to get a job in the engine room where it was a constant 42 degrees centigrade. Because every time I touched metal, I would take the skin off my fingers, and this was a common practice. So I constantly had red raw hands, was constantly on the brink of frostbite, and I had to live in those conditions. So, after a year or two of that, I got a job in the engine room because, it sucks. Ice sucks. And yes, frostbite sucks. But there are ways of keeping yourself safe. And altitude sickness is a problem, I believe. Once you get up on that supposed upper plateau. I'm not
Is altitude sickness like
sure what it is in
edema?
thousands. I'm sorry?
Is it like edema? Is that the same thing as altitude sickness?
Yeah, an edema, well, it's just bleeding into the brain. Yeah, it would cause that. But they say a Viagra cures it. So apparently a Viagra cures altitude sickness. Well, according to... well, it does, according to Clarkson and Top Gear television program, because he was in the high Himalayas and he took one and the altitude sickness disappeared. And yeah, you can have an edema and it can cause bleeding on the brain.
They've done a bit of polar propaganda, have they not?
Yeah, he's been working hard. Now, you've got to bear in mind, I've been thinking about him and his trip to the North Pole. He drove a 4x4 vehicle, did he not, across the frozen ocean to one of the supposed North Pole stations. Did you catch that episode?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of Top Gear, but, I mean, how much of it is actually going on and how much of it is actually the North Pole? We'll never know.
Anything to do with the BBC, right, is bullshit. They're one of them. They're all evil. They're all Satanists, right?
Well, they like putting a lot of programming in for curvature propaganda. So several times they've mentioned bridges that have been calculated to incorporate the curvature of the Earth. The same with the Bugatti Veyron. They said the road that they tested the Bugatti Veyron on had been worked out and factored in the curvature of the Earth. And it's nonsense. Surveyors don't plot in curve.
No, they never do. No railway engineers or any engineers. I'll give you a couple of things that have sprung to my mind today. You know Brian Cox, their spokesman, Professor Brian Cox.
No,
he Manchester University. Yeah, you know him, all right. Anyway, that knob, right? You can't spell knob, by the way. I used to watch his programs, obviously Wonders of the Solar System. And one episode, he went into a jet plane and they flew him at a very high altitude, okay? I'm not sure what it was, something around 50,000, I suppose. Not V2, high 75,000, but high. And when he stepped out of that plane and he come down them steps that they do, the first words out of his mouth was, "Oh, yeah, I seen the curvature." And I thought to myself, well, why would it be that the first thing that come out of your mouth? Wouldn't it be, oh my God, that's like the most mind-blowing thing that I've ever had in my life, or I feel a bit pukey, or he just had to solidify his
got to get that flow programming straight away. Oh yeah, I saw the curve.
The first words out of his mouth were
curvature. Is that Brian Cox?
Yeah. So it just goes to show that all of them, now the BBC...
Oh, have we lost you?
They're massive players in it. Massive. John Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah, they sent James May up as well. They sent James May up to look for the curve. And that's all he talked about. All he wanted to see was the curve. That said, I would. That's all I would want to see if I still believed in it.
It is quite upsetting. The thing is, I've had to sort of, I suppose we all have, would reevaluate everything we've learned in our entire life. Like, I follow television programs like, we all did, like Blue Peter and Doctor Who and all of the programs that we follow, all of these brainwashing programs. I was absolutely infatuated with the television as a child. And I sat in front of it constantly. Surprised I managed to actually unplug, to be honest with you. But the whole exercise in it, it's the BBC, right? I think they're main players in it. They are really hardcore promoting the globe agenda. When they had this new supercomputer that they paid, I can't remember the X amount of millions they paid for it, to show their new weather projections, so they could show their new super globe projection on their super map. And I can remember thinking, well, bloody hell, the world's small, isn't it? Because nothing is an accurate projection. They can't even get it right on the BBC weather. Even the map projections are bullshit on the BBC weather.
Why have we got a projection on the weather? Why can't we have a proper photograph of the actual weather?
Now, wouldn't that be nice? Or an actual photograph of a satellite? Because I have a book here that's got 4 pages on satellites, but not one actual picture of a satellite in space. And when you watch the bullshit ISS feed, you'd expect with all of those thousands, they tell us, of these satellites that are dotted around the planet, you'd spot one or two of them on a bit of space junk or something. Surely they can't keep telling one lie and then they just show you something else, and it's insanity. They are quite nuts, and we fell for it, but. You people out there who are not flat earthers, mark my words, from a man who does know and who has been around and has seen the world, mark my words, the earth is flat, okay? And this year, 2016, it's going to be a big year of awakenings for a lot of people in humanity, I believe. I don't believe in the 100 monkeys effect. It hasn't worked for us. Something else is going to happen. I don't know whether it's going to be their angle. It's going to bring out something bigger for flat earth. But I feel that something big is going to happen to do with the flat earth movement in 2016. I can feel it right through me. It's important. It's the most important thing that ever was.
I think on that note, Martin, I think that's a brilliant way to wrap it up, as we're about an hour and 20 minutes away from seeing in 2016.
Can I just say, I love you all out there in the flat earth world, all of my friends. Happy New Year, and I'm going to speak to you all soon. And I love you all, I really do. You are the best people in the world I have ever met, and I've been on the planet nearly half a century, so that's saying something. So Nathan, Paula, thanks for inviting me to your show. It's been a real honour. It really has. Thank you very much. It's been an absolute
pleasure having you on, Martin. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, wonderful. I am really, really happy. Big smiles, believe me. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Paula. Audio, Paula. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Are we off? Bye.
I'm going to sign off and say to all of you in chat, thank you very much for joining in.
Yeah.
I will see you all in the next video. Happy New Year.